It would really be nice if we had like a
Okay.
druid or two.
So, we're going to pick up where we left off. Last week we talked about the spider wing, the arachnid quarter, whatever you want to call it. Um, Definitely the easiest wing that we're going to do. After we finish that, we're going to head over to the plague wing, plague quarter, disease thing, whatever you want to call it. This will be by far the second easiest wing we do. Um, the first two bosses of this wing are effectively a joke. The third will likely be one of the hard walls that we run into. So we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about Lotheb than we do Noth and Hagen. But let's move over to the PTR. So this is Fusion again, same people that we watched last time. Um, this first trash pack here, there are several of these trash packs. There are only really a few types of mobs in this quarter. You don't really have to worry about memorizing what any of these mobs in particular do, because most of them are very self-explanatory. However, they can cause some significant issues. So the first thing is we have ghouls. The theme from last week is that ghouls can be stunned. That is still true. These ghouls are stunnable, at least they were on the PTR. Hopefully they still will be. They can also be disarmed. They can be, I think, death coiled too. You'll see them start running around a little bit here. The mobs that we actually have to pay attention to in these packs are these slimes. They move incredibly slowly and hit really hard. Tanks, you can get away with tanking these, but I prefer that you don't. Yes, it is, Mara. Thank you for checking. Um, the big issue with these slimes is that despite the fact that they melee relatively slowly, they chunk pretty darn hard. So you can see that they are again attempting to see if you can precast these mobs, and the answer again is no. On PTR, most guilds would have all of their mages and warlocks precast one of the mobs on a pull to effectively just delete it before the pull actually happened. Seems like we can't do that here. We'll still probably try, but we'll find out.
Question.
So the first thing I want you guys to notice, tanks, these ghouls hit relatively quickly for an average of about 2k. Um, this will be one of those places that if you have aggro on all three of these, please, for the love of everything, put a shield on. Again, like I said, they're disarmable and they're stunnable. So plenty of ways to mitigate the damage that's coming in here outside of wearing a shield. Um, but long story short, you don't want to have aggro on all three while they're attacking.
Shackleable?
Say again?
Shackle?
You can shackle almost everything in Nax. There's not really a reason to, though. Especially when these things, like, they can be feared, they can be stunned. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with these.
I was thinking just like
Hunters can
shackle
kite
those.
them.
We could do
Yeah.
shackle those and just pump on the slimes and then kill
Um,
them one by one.
yeah, that's actually a good point. What you're seeing right now, all of the ranged DPS that are currently attacking these ghouls, they're wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. Um, those ghouls are for melee to take care of. While the melee are taking care of those, the range should be on these slimes. Like I said, they move incredibly slowly, so you guys can start unloading on those as soon as they become aggressive. And the idea here is that depending on the color that they are immune to a certain class of magic, and they will occasionally change color. So you just got to pay attention to what they're currently immune to and use a spell that they are not. That being said, they do have a significant portion of health for being mobs that mostly only casters will be on. So we want you guys on these ASAP so that they don't, linger for 2 minutes after the ghouls are dead. Melee can definitely get on these. If you are the melee that is currently being targeted, kind of like Buru in AQ20, you can be on these mobs. You just don't want to be if you are currently on the threat table or the highest on the threat table. But generally speaking, those packs should not give us too much of an issue. There's nothing particularly annoying about them, like the ones in Spiderwing. However, now we have Stone Skin Gargoyles. These are particularly annoying. This singular pack, or singular pat rather, will not cause us much issue because it is just one of these. But they have two abilities. The first is an AoE acid spray, which you saw in Spiderwing as well. The second is a heal. These are, just murder them quickly and we will be fine. However, we do have to wait for the dot to fall off in between gargoyle packs, which will be an issue as we are going down to our good friend Noth. They also do reset at the door. So we'll fight them up here.
Lorak, one quick thing. Can you pass me Master Loot?
Ah, yes.
Those mobs make me want to drop a tremor.
I'm just gonna your lead now.
Okay.
Fear, do they? No, it's just
No, they don't fear, but they look like the ones from Strand Undead. So it's like
Yeah.
I see that and I want to drop tremor instantly.
So I just want to point this out real quick. This cast board down here. This is an extremely slow cast. I did a little bit of prep yesterday for this and admitted to the people that were watching that I have literally no idea what this cast actually does. A few people informed me that it heals them to full. It's so slow that I have literally never seen it go off. So if you guys manage to let this happen, I'm going to be very disappointed.
They go immune and it heals them to full.
Yeah, the biggest issue is not when you have one, but you have two. If you tend to cleave them, you could trigger the heal, and then you would have to just kill them again.
Yeah.
So those are really it was precise. Just single target them down as fast as possible.
So we have another one of the Ghoul plus Slime packs, and there's another one on the other side. Skip past those real quick. They pull these all the way out. There are benefits to doing this. The first is, obviously, you give yourself a little bit of room. The second is the slimes are taking forever and a day to get here, right? So casters can just be in the hallway DPSing the slimes on the way down while the rest of the group takes care of the ghouls. And once we're through with these, they're testing these mobs. The other one, these ghouls have a few dots that they do a decent amount of damage, which is another reason that you don't want to have multiple on them if you're tanking. But the dots aren't big enough deal that the healers won't be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And they also frenzy. I do not know if that's trankable, but it might be. So hunters, keep an eye out for that.
It looks like the average damage is 1,500 incoming on him.
Alright, so now we get to a hallway of gargoyles, and this will be the last significant normal trash in the Plague Wing. There's a gauntlet in the Plague Wing, just like there's a gauntlet in Blackwing Lair and a gauntlet in AQ. The gauntlet in Blackwing Lair turned out to be way easier than we thought it was going to be. Notice that these gargoyles aren't actually targetable until you get in melee range of them. So don't walk into this hallway thinking, oh, there's no enemies. You will get smacked. But yes, the gauntlet in Plague Wing is significantly harder than both Suppression Room and the walk from Sartura to Thankrith. So we'll talk about that a little bit. These do need to be burned down one at a time. You can cleave, you can whirlwind, but you don't want to do so much cleave damage to the secondary target that it pops that stone skin, as Kylos was mentioning, because it will be a little bit hard to, make sure that neither of them gets the cast off.
The biggest issue is the elongated time that they're alive. You keep getting the stacks, and eventually it will one-shot the tank because you have no armor.
This debuff right here, it is a dot. We talked about it in Spiderwing. It's acid. You can't dispel it. Yada yada. We just have to wait for this to fall off in between pulls. If we don't wait for this to fall off in between pulls, the chances are we're going to wipe on the second pull. They have 3,000 extra health here. It's Alliance, so they've got extra health to begin with. They're fully world buffed. Yada yada yada. So this ticking for what is it right now? 382 is relatively small, but once you get up to 8 stacks, once you get up to 12 stacks, we're not going to be able to keep up with that. So wait for this to fall off before you do the things. And actually, this group does do that. Salad Bakers just kind of ran through this tunnel and killed everything, and then Petri Flasks at the end, which is probably what we're going to end up seeing in speedruns. But obviously, we're not going to be burning Petri Flasks, so... Also keep in mind that they still have the DPS buff here, so things are dying faster than they would. But once we're done with these 3 gargoyle packs, that's the rest of the normal trash, quote unquote, in the Plague Wing. This is Noth. He's potentially the easiest fight we've done since Molten Core. This will be hilarious. We're going to watch a short guide on him before I actually show you what it looked like on the PTR. This guy is... I found a new favorite guide maker.
Noth the Plagebra. The main mechanic of this fight is all about decursing Curse of the Plaguebringer, which is...
This is literally the entire fight. This is it. This is the only thing that we have to actually care about. Mages, druids, decurse. I don't care if you don't cast a single other button. Fucking decurse. If you don't do this, we wipe. If you do this, the fight is the easiest thing in the game.
If left too long, will wipe the raid. You can tank this boss wherever. He'll cast a blink, which will slow everyone around him and drop aggro. DPS should hold off attacking him until the main tank gains aggro back.
Important to note that slow is technically a cripple effect. I think it's dispellable.
The blink usually coincides with ads spawning, off tanks pick them up, and DPS should swap to them and nuke them down.
Those ads have almost no health. Ranged DPS can take care of them by themselves, the melee can stay on the boss.
After 90 seconds, the boss will teleport away and you'll have to kill all the ads. The boss will stay here.
After 90 seconds, the boss will be dead.
Here until the ads are dead or until 90 seconds has passed. This will happen 2 more times, 110.
This right here is the entire fight.
10 seconds after he reappears, and again
So
3
glad
minutes
this is
after the
endgame.
second time he reappears.
That's it. It's the entire fight. So he actually spends a decent amount of time talking about this. So let me skip forward a bit until where's the pull. Okay. So tanks, pay attention to the aggro radius here. The 3 corners that ads spawn from are the ones that don't have a giant gaping doorway, right? So the corner that they're standing in, the northeast corner, and the southwest corner are where the ads tend to spawn from. So that's where we'll have the off tanks waiting to pick those up. And when I say off tanks waiting to pick those up, what I really mean is off tanks DPSing the boss and then picking up the ads when they spawn. So relatively short aggro radius, can be tanked basically anywhere as long as it's in that this northwest half of the room. Just so people don't have to run all over the place. Okay, curse goes out. Decurse, 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 decurse. You will see what happens if you don't decurse because they don't get there's a few of them that they miss.
Is it time based or percentage based?
The curse is time based.
No, teleport.
For
him to go
teleport is time based. So he will teleport up to his balcony 90 seconds into the fight. Until then, he's just blinking around the room, right? The blinks are threat drops, so yes, that is a mechanic that you have to be aware of. It also slows everybody in his general vicinity when he blinks. So warriors especially, keep in mind that if you intercept to the boss, the tanks won't necessarily be able to do that. This is where Deep Prot shines, right? Where they have their tactical mastery. Our Fury Prots do not. So be careful about immediately opening up on the boss after a blink. So they fail to decurse one of the curses, and you're watching as the raid takes a bunch of damage. This is not normal. The raid should not be taking this damage. This is probably one curse that they missed. If you miss multiple curses, yes, it will wipe you. So don't let that happen. Don't let that happen.
Shas with like a different skin.
Say again?
This is basically Shas with different skin. Just kill it before you teleport.
Effectively. So these ads that spawn in the corners here, they have... I think he swaps to target one at some point. Not a lot of health is the answer. They swap all of their DPS over there. They don't really need to, but they actually are intentionally lengthening this fight to see what Phase 2 looks like. But these ads that spawn, they're effectively Razorburr ads, right? It's one of those things that they will die faster than they spawn. This is the cripple effect. The fact that it has a blue border leads me to believe that it's dispellable, despite the fact that in every PTR video that I watched, I didn't see a single person actually get dispelled, so I cannot confirm. But the debuff is called Cripple. I'm fairly certain it is a magic debuff, so priests, you should be able to dispel this. If you're looking for priority targets on these dispels, the answer is tanks, because we want the tanks to be able to move around quickly. Ah, yes, okay, somebody does dispel it. How did I miss that the first time I watched this? Cool. So they stop DPS here to see what the next phase looks like. Another round of curses goes out in which people miss a few. So, yeah, more damage that needs to be happening. It is worth noting, tanks, that Noth actually hits not like a wimp. He's not like... This is not one of those fights that if you don't have a shield on, you will die. But, you know, if you've got a decent threat lead, maybe. Alright, so they are waiting for Phase 2. When Phase 2 happens, again, this pile here and the 2 piles that you saw over in the corner there are where the ads spawn from. They're just going to get nuked. Again, they do have a damage buff, but they have like 34k health. Yeah, they're just going to get nuked. The likelihood that we don't even see this phase is very high. The boss does not have that much health. It takes him 90 seconds before this phase even starts. It's very likely that we just kill it before this ever happens. If we don't kill it before this happens, it's another 90 seconds before we can DPS the boss again. So we're just kind of chilling, hitting these things. They're stunnable. They're weak. They just die. Yeah. This is us standing in the Naxxramas, just kind of doing our thing.
They just slap this together or what?
I have no fucking clue. This
Doesn't seem too difficult.
Yeah, this fight's a joke. This fight's an absolute joke. I'll put it this way: we will be here after my Exna. If we can kill my Exna, this is like... I don't even know why I'm talking about it. Alright, skipping forward. This is the Gauntlet. There are 3 different kinds of mobs in this Gauntlet. There are these grubs. They kind of just die, but they do damage. These plagued bats also kind of just die, but they will charge people and melee attack them. And then there is a third mob, which is the one that we actually need to pay attention to, which are called Plague Beasts. You'll see one right around the corner here in a second. Maybe. But the Plague Beasts are big, impossible to miss. They glow greenish, I think. Yeah, there it is. These need to be tanked out of the raid. They have multiple forms of AoE. They also hit pretty fucking hard. So tanks, if you're tanking these, shields are good. I think that the actual big attack that they have is nature damage. They're not going to kill you, but, you know, this is a gauntlet, so reduce the strain on the healers if you can. Let's see, when do they actually start this? So, actually, let me go back to the map real quick. So this is the Plague Wing down here. They enter. They do this trash in this room. This is where those 2 packs were. This is the hallway where the gargoyles were. Here's Noth's room. And then we head off into this room here. The idea here is we start at the entrance. We're going to run to this far wall, hug that wall all the way to this corner, and then hug that to this corner here. Once you get to that corner there, you cannot enter this room. If you enter this room, you will aggro Hygen. Okay? So we're going to stop on this corner. There's a little tiny nook that you can stand in right there. Things will continue to aggro. There is not a safe spot like an AQ, at least there wasn't on the PTR. However, we can kill the things fast enough that, kind of like in Suppression Room, we give our healers and casters a little bit of time to drink before we actually pull Hygen. So, they were testing the respawn rate on these. The answer is they don't respawn particularly fast. It's about 20 seconds. And eventually they actually start this thing. This place, so if you look at these grubs, they melee for an average of about 400. on a plate wearer. Melee DPS, especially warriors, don't be afraid to keep aggro on these, right? They don't need to be properly tanked. The bats almost can't be properly tanked because they charge all over the place. But if you look at the health pools on these, the bats have less than 11,000 health. The grubs aren't much higher than that. In fact, they might be lower. Yeah, the grubs are at 25k. So, if you're looking for a target to focus the grubs because the bats are just going to kind of die to cleave. These should be the primary targets. The bats also don't hit particularly hard either. But these plague beasts, 56k. So, they will take a second to die. And, let's see. Where does he get slapped? Too many dodges. Okay. So he just got slapped for about 1,000. I think the average hit on these is about 1,100. Crit for 23k, or 2.3k rather. 23k crits, lol. And he is intentionally testing the damage on this by turning his back to it, right? So, not a big deal. But again, because this is a gauntlet and because they are significantly buffed right now, we need to be careful. The other thing that you should keep in mind is the buff that they have. I don't remember. I think that this was after they switched to the PTR buff to also do plus 50% healing. So they have plus 50% damage and plus 50% healing right now. So that's a big thing to keep in mind when you're watching how smooth the healing is. But other than that, we just run through it. Things get aggroed. Occasionally there's a plague beast that we take outside of the raid and the ranged. If there's ever a plague beast, this is your priority target. Everything else can be cleaved by the melee. They actually kill a couple of them in the raid just to see. Let's see. Do they test the damage for the AoE? I'm not sure if they ever even get it. It kind of just dies. Yeah, they never even get it. So this might be something that, if we have enough DPS, we just don't care. Okay. Look at this real quick. The boss aggroed in this corner. Don't actually tuck yourself in here. Alright? He will reset at the edge of this room here. But we don't want to have to deal with that. Alright, so once we are actually in this room, Hagen is another complete joke. Let's watch
Hagen the Dirty. Get ready to kick people from your guild because this is without doubt the easiest boss in the game ever.
If anybody gets hit by the fucking plumes, even like the first time we do this, after watching a guide like this or me just telling you to fucking follow the tanks, I'm gonna be severely disappointed.
They're a little
Boss has
weird.
a mana burner or
Like
No excuses.
the one by the door is like closer.
What if I have
than it would
260
be.
ping?
You're a ranged character.
around him so healers in range stand on the boss podium, whilst your melee and the tank the boss on the lower ground. Tank him here to begin with. The main mechanic will begin shortly. The room is split into 4 parts in which sludge will come out of the ground in 3/4 shortly. The room is split into 4 parts in which sludge.
Tanks, it is highly beneficial for you to memorize these quarters. However, there are visual cues during the fight that also let you know which the safe spots are. But if the tank is, on the ball with bringing them to the correct places and the melee just follow, this fight's done.
Will come out of the ground in 3/4 of the room. Avoid this. The sludge will move across the room from left to right and back, repeating until the second phase. Also, the boss will teleport people outside the room, run back before phase 2 begins. The second phase is simply the same eruption mechanic, just a bit quicker, and the boss teleports to the podium, so now the melee can laugh at the massively inferior ranged and healers fail at this mechanic.
Dancing.
Repeat, kill the boss.
What the hell?
So,
The animation that he does for the boss is so good.
yeah. So, over here, this is where you will end up coming back if you get teleported out. If you get teleported out, sorry, there goes your parse, but this is where you'd come back. There are things in this room. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a point of view from the people running back, but there are eye stalks that do like a mind flay thingy that slows you, and worms and shit like that. Generally speaking, it's not a big deal. You kind of just run back and then kill things as you do. If a healer gets teleported with you too, this is mindless. let me go back to this. We actually watched the fight. So, tank pulls. They are going to intentionally lengthen this fight to see phase 2 as well. This boss has a decent amount of health, just under 2 mil. It's slightly more likely that we see phase 2 on Hygen than on Noth, but I have a feeling that we'll get to the point where that we never see phase 2 on Hygen either. It's not particularly hard to out DPS that.
It's 90 seconds to do 1.8 million. If we wreck on him, then I think we could attempt it.
He's actually probably a pretty good choice for wreck too, because you don't need to wreck Lotheb. So you're seeing the eruptions.
I like
During
that.
phase 1, they are slow enough that you really don't have any excuse for not being in the right spot, except for they just were a little bit too far. This boss does hit, but like in theory, the tank is the only one that needs heals. So yeah,
I think they
people
put
who are
him.
running back. They'll need
He's
heals when
getting
they
hit
get
for
back.
2K.
That's it.
I think they put him too close to the range a few times.
See him doing. He's doing like a slingshot mechanic kind of thing, or like he's bringing the boss. He's running past where the safe zone is, so the boss would move into the safe zone and then walking back. Like the melee shouldn't follow that slim mechanic that the tank is doing. The melee should be following the boss.
okay. So they intentionally wait here. They're choosing not to kill him in order to see phase 2. There's the
Because
teleport. Yep, all of the range join. Everybody needs to get to this entrance side of the room quickly. Otherwise, you die. Once you get to the entrance side, you need to immediately move back to here. Because it's not as slow as it is during phase 1. If we see
Look at the
this
raid
phase...
damage.
Huh?
Look at that raid damage.
Yeah, you can't heal this. You do not have time to get a heal off. The druids and the priests are the only ones that are going to be able to heal anything during this because HOTS. So if you get stuck in these, you're just dead. Don't do it.
You should have tanked him by the door, so you don't have to move so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Also, you see how the range just walked into the middle of that section? You don't go all the way there. You should stop at the edge of the platform.
Yeah, during this phase, you want to be as close to the platform as possible because the silence that he does not matter because you're not casting anything, right? So yes, he does a silence if you're too close to him, but like you can hug this arc. That, by the way, is why the range start up here to begin with. But yeah, the pulsing during this phase is fast enough that as soon as one pulses, you need to already be moving to the next one. There's no pausing during phase 2. So let me backtrack a little bit and show you that again. So they get to here. The first one goes out. As that one goes down, the next one goes out. Right? So you need to be on the ball here, making sure that you're moving from section to section.
They're running the whole time.
Otherwise, the entire raid dies.
I remember doing that shit on dial-up. Ugh.
See how the entrance is further out than you'd feel like it would be, and the zones overlap a little bit.
Yeah, so this is the one that just erupted on that previous one. If it erupted on the previous one, it is safe on the next, right? So that's how you can draw your lines. There's also a little... he's not really looking in the right angle. But there's a way to visually tell when you're in-game and it's not all pixelated and shit where the next one is going to occur. But they end up wiping this, obviously. So we're going to skip ahead quite a bit.
Do you have to maintain that range during that that second phase when you're
Not
doing just the
necessarily.
dance without the boss? Yeah, because we always used to hug up close to the platform so you didn't have to go as far.
Yeah,
because you were cutting your radius.
The casters and the healers will get silenced if we hug the thing here, but like it's not a big deal because you're not casting, right? So if you have dots or hots, maybe you want to play it a little bit further out, but you can still not get hit.
I don't. He doesn't silence. He does a mana burn, doesn't he?
Doesn't the mana burn also silence, or does it just literally burn all of your mana?
I think it's just like the silence is maybe.
I know in the
Death
new
Knight
version
guy?
it was like a casting speed reduction, but I don't know if it's the same for the old.
Let me check.
I'm pretty sure he does an AoE mana burn, so that's why it's kind of important to stay away from him.
Well, Rezuvius's shout is technically a mana burn too, but it kind of just one-shots you, right? So
yeah,
calling it a mana burn is a little bit
irrelevant.
Irrelevant, yeah.
So during phase 2, does he still do the mana burn thing?
The biggest issue is that the mana burn does shadow damage whenever he does it to you. That's why you avoid getting the mana burn. It's not about the mana or the silence. It will do a lot of damage to you, just like what's his name, the fire one in MC.
Okay. There's one other mechanic that I do want to talk about, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so this is a perfect place to pause. So I found the exact description. It deals 500 nature damage every 3 seconds in a 20-yard radius around Hagen. Only casts it during phase 1. Cleansable and curable. And the AoE mana burn deals shadow damage equivalent to the mana drained. Okay, yes. So you do not want to be near Hagen if you've got a mana bar. Long story short. It will fuck you up.
Well, what's the range on that?
20 yards. 20 yards.
Okay.
So the other thing to keep in mind here, and I didn't mention this just because it's kind of obvious, let me see if I can back up just a little bit. Right here. This thing, right here. This debuff, he only casts it like a few times during the first phase. It doesn't go out often. It is curable. I think it's a disease. So be ready with disease things.
I think that's the one that does casting time reduction.
No, actually, this reduces your maximum health by 50%.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, so if you notice right now, he only has 4,800 health. So that needs to be instantly cleansed on the main tank, and cleansed on everybody else as well.
It's the fever. And Shaman should have the totem down all the times.
Yeah. But yeah, this boss is slightly harder than Noth, but if we wipe more than once to this, I will be surprised.
It's just best to phase 1 them, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Which we probably can.
Yeah.
This is probably this might be the best wreck target that I could think of.
We're
More than
doing
Lotheb?
yeah.
You don't wreck Lotheb. You get a massive crit buff on Lotheb. There's no
You
reason
get
to
a
wreck him.
50% crit buff.
Oh, I forgot about the crit buff.
If we're doing
I was just thinking they wanted Lotheb to die fast so that you get, as little drain on your healers as possible. Sorry.
if we're doing Spider this, probably it's like Maxina and then this would be the 2 targets that you wreck. Right?
I mean, wrecking my X is also kind of irrelevant. I actually don't even know if there's a wreck target. Like maybe wrecking Ferlina so that we can pre-pop the debuff instead of casting it after she enrages. I don't know. There's like not a good target in Spiderwing. It also, of course, will depend on how quickly we end up clearing the wings. But this is the hallway that you have to run through. If you get teleported, you go teleported over here-ish. And you just, you run over here and over there. Important that you don't run through the middle here. You can kind of get away with it if you've got like a mage and a healer, but there's no real reason to, right? Just hug the wall so you aggro as little as possible on your way back. Okay, and then we get to Big Boy Lotheb. So this will be the first hard wall that we run into. You're noticing that the tank is currently checking for all of the mitigation gear. Literally all of it. If you have a piece that has more stam, more armor, more dodge, more parry, like, your threat here almost doesn't matter. And I'll explain why in a second. But you want literally every piece of mitigation you can find. The reason for that is because Lothep has a healing mechanic that makes things rough, and he has a really fucking hard melee attack. So let's watch a quick guide real quick, and then we'll talk about specifics.
Luatheb. This boss is a big DPS race. Spores will spawn throughout the fight that when they die will give 5 people around them a 50% increased critical strike bonus.
This is the important part. Spells and abilities cause no threat. This is why, tanks, you want full mitigation, because the people that will be actually pumping on this fight will not be generating threat.
And no threat gain. Don't let this hit your tanks. You need to make sure everyone gets this buff ASAP, starting with your biggest pumpers. The main mechanic of this fight is Corrupted Mind, which gives a 1-minute cooldown on healing spells.
This is the entire fight right here. Obviously the spore rotations are big, but this is the entire Lotheb fight. There will be a rotation for each of the healers. It is extremely important that you do not cast a heal until it is your turn. You might feel like, oh no, the tank's about to die. Don't mess up the healing rotation. If the rotation gets fucked, the tank will die.
You need to prioritize these heals to keep the tank up, which means that DPS should try and use health potions, bandages, and health stones to heal themselves. Judgment of Light or Poison Cleansing Totem can help alleviate some of the damage going out. After 2 minutes, the boss will begin casting Inevitable Doom every 30 seconds. This deals a lot of damage. After 5 minutes, he casts this every 15 seconds, so hurry up and kill that boss!
So, the Inevitable Doom is the reason I've been telling you all to stack Shadow Protection Potions. We're going to watch this and keep in mind that there is a massive damage buff on the PTR, as well as a massive healing buff, and 3,000 health. So, everybody in this raid has 3,000 extra health. Everybody in this raid is doing more damage. Everybody in this raid is doing more healing. So, this is going to look easier than it actually will be, and it's going to be dead faster than it actually will be. And spoiler alert, it's still going to look really hard. We pre-pop Greater Shadow Protection Potions before this pull. And then at 2 minutes, when the first Inevitable Dooms start wiping out your Shadow Protection Potions, you pop another one. Then when that one wears off, you'll Healthstone. Then when that wears off and your health is low again, you pop another Shadow Protection Potion and Bandage, yada yada yada. There's a big healing rotation here for the raid that each individual member of the raid needs to be responsible for, because the healers will not be healing the raid. We can't. We have to be healing the tank and the tank only. So you need to be responsible for your own health here, and if you don't come with the proper consumables, you're going to die. And this is a DPS race because of the nature of the fight and the fact that Inevitable Doom becomes faster the longer the fight goes on. You need to come prepared, because if a lot of DPS die here, we just aren't going to kill it. So, let's see what happens. Yes, warriors can flask with healing weapons. Is that worth it? Maybe. It's not going to really reduce the damage too much. It'll make it a little bit easier, but it's not going to make the fight if the fight would have otherwise been broken, you know. Alright, start getting people rezzed up and buffed up and all that.
Wouldn't the tank pre-flask with healing gear on?
Yes. This is one of those places where a flask set on tanks is actually really good.
Just replacing a healer at that point? Or all the healers at that point?
Not really. He still slaps too hard. Damn, how much? These guys take way longer talking about these bosses than they need to, given the fact that they've done them before. Okay, this is the next very important thing. Everybody needs to be inside of the room before the boss is pulled. Do not go further than the tanks. Like, don't pull the boss. Just don't do it. This is Cthulhu point 2, right? Don't. There will be a similar thing with KT as well. Oh, warlocks. Everybody in the raid, every single person needs a health stone. So,
Yep.
Come prepared.
And because health stones are only going to be one a fight, that means you should wait until about 4 or 5 minutes in before you pop it, so you don't have to get another one.
Yeah. I will say, on the PTR, Lothab died in about 2 minutes by guilds that knew what they were doing and had buffs. So it's likely that we see like a 5 to 6 minute average fight. I would like to get it under 5, because if we get it under 5, we significantly reduce the amount of consumables that we have to use. But that's just going to be a practice makes perfect kind of thing. The other thing that you'll notice here is they've got 3 mages. That's actually enough to keep an ignite rolling with Lothab.
Does that healing debuff, is it apply per rank, or is it just for the heal overall for that name?
If you cast a heal, all other healing spells, including that one, every single healing spell will go on cooldown for a minute.
So your abilities has nothing to do with
So
it.
you're using your big one only then.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah. Priests will be using greater heal rank 5. Shamans will be using max rank healing wave or whatever it is.
Would this be a really good fight for Scarab Brooch?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that.
This is also this is a wonderful fight for 8-piece tier 2 for priests, because you're just gonna max rank greater heal.
And the extra hot is huge.
And then you get inner focus every, or whatever, the extra crit one every 2 minutes.
Yep.
So you get 2 of them.
Okay, so I just want you guys to pay attention real quick. Look at the top left of the screen where his health is, and just look at the damage that Lothab is putting out and how quickly it comes in, because this fight is one of the reasons why I am so grateful that we have such a wonderful core of healers, because this is going to test you, right? So just look up here for a second. Lothab slaps hard and fast. And the fact that he slaps hard and fast means that whoever is currently up to heal, I will be calling the healing rotations on this. We'll also have them pre-assigned and written down and all kinds of things to make sure that they go well. But you need to be ready. As soon as you see, like, for instance, I know that my greater heal heals for a certain amount. As soon as I see him get to like half of that amount, like once he's like right about here, like 75%, I start casting my heal. That way when he's here, it hits, tops him off, the next person's ready to go, right? You need to be very efficient here, otherwise things will get ugly.
Do you want to do the shamans first so they can all like NS max rank?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
We'll figure that out. It's likely that a priest first will be better, just because
put the hot on.
Well, getting the hot up is important, and getting an inner focus greater heal off means that the chances of the tank having the inspiration buff for a while is very high, which will also help. So it will likely be
the inspiration buff too, right?
Yeah, but we have a crit buff that we can pop to almost guarantee it.
We can also like shield and get that buff on him before we go in, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
are shields in that heal block
Yep.
off as well?
Yep.
Oh,
Healing
fantastic.
stream totems might not be, but that is something that we'll have to test. So the rotation will likely look like priest, druid, shaman, priest, etc., etc.
Yeah, and you may have to start pre-casting before it's your turn just to get, if he's taking so much damage to the end, like now, I'd almost want to be pre-casting before it's my turn just so it knocks in.
Yeah. Shamans with your nature swiftnesses will be able to do good things here, but first thing I want you to take a
They
look
just
at
PI
as we
him?
look at the rest of the fight. Maybe?
Look at his buffs. I think he has PI.
Yeah, he does. Lol. Don't know why. Thunderfear, maybe? So, important thing to note here. Lothar has like 5 mil health. It's a lot. The only reason that this is even doable is because of the buff that you get. So, you can't really tell from this angle. But there are
Did they
spores.
PI him for the diamond flask?
He didn't diamond flask. So one of the things that the PTR discovered that we didn't see here is that depending on where Lothab is tanked, you can actually control where the spores spawn. So tanks, I actually want you to, if this is his room right here, this is where we enter from, I want you to tank him in this corner over here. Not in the corner, but like just to the northeast of center. What that does is it will guarantee that spores spawn in the southwest. That way that all of the melee that are behind the boss here and all of the casters that enter the room from this side can just walk here instead of having to go to the far side of the room attempting to hunt down spores. Right? Because of the nature of the buff that the spores give, the mages will receive the first spore, and then we'll start rotating through all of the other pump groups with the warriors, rogues, and warlocks, and maybe eventually hunters, but probably not.
Get it?
So how long of a fight are we expecting?
I would expect our first fight to be on the order of 6 minutes. The fights after that will likely get down to 5, maybe eventually 4. And once we're like really fucking geared, we might see 3.5 or 3 minute fights. But we'll probably end up averaging 4 to 5 minutes after we get used to the fight.
Will we get like two spores sometimes, or like each in a fight?
Yeah. Okay. So the spore buff lasts a minute, which means that every 5 spores you'll be cycling again. There are effectively 4 quote-unquote spore groups.
Question. Does he do enough magic damage so you can't put a thing on the warrior and the tank? Amplify magic?
Actually, no. Amplify magic is a decent call. I don't think that would
2,000
cause any significant issues.
It's 2,000 from Doom, right? But it's every like 15 seconds, 20 seconds?
Yeah, and Doom isn't frequent enough for it to really matter. Plus, the tank will have a Shadow Protection Potion on them too, for the first Doom anyway. So now you're seeing they moved it to this corner and the spores are spawning over there. So, DPS, when you are assigned to spore groups, it's very important. These spores die in a single hit. A mage can just Arcane Explosion it, or Fire Blast it, or whatever. It's very important that you do not kill these spores until your entire group is there. One person missing the spore buff is so much missed DPS. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, before people are trying to steal
The spam system, would you send an extra person just in case?
Yeah. So this is their first inevitable doom. So you'll watch when this runs out, the raid will take a burst of damage. It will probably be negligible because they should all have Shadow Protection Potions on. Nope. Okay. Bunch of them get hit by this. The first one, actually, they might have had Shadow Protection Potions. It might just hit through it. But the first one, brings the raid down a little bit. It's the second one that really hurts. So as soon as that one goes out, like literally the instant you take damage from that, you repop your Greater Shadow Protection Potion, because you might need 3 for this fight. In fact, it's very likely. So as soon as you take damage from that, you pop another one. Except for the tank. The tank will be popping a Stone Shield.
2500 for the Inevitable Doom, so it could eat through your Shadow Put and do a little bit of damage.
Yeah. So the second Inevitable Doom comes out 30 seconds after the first one. Also, there's a poison. Shamans, you'll just drop poison cleansing totems. Makes it really easy. So there's the second Inevitable Doom. This one you'll see will probably actually do damage to the raid. Yep. So it looks like most of them repopped their Shadow Protection Potions. Also, Warlocks, of course, Shadow Ward will probably save you hundreds, if not thousands, of gold over the course of our Naxx raiding. So, use it. Ah, there it is. There it is. They did not pop a second. So now everybody's in danger, right? Lotheb at this point is in execute phase. The tank, however, is almost dead.
Tank's being executed.
Yeah, this is where things get interesting, because obviously with the damage buff and the healing buff and the health buff that they've got, they're fine. They don't actually need a third Shadow Protection Potion or anything like that. In fact, they would have survived without the second one. We will need that, though. Don't look at this and say, oh, I don't need Shadow Protection Potions, I'm fine. If you don't bring Shadow Protection Potions, especially to progression, first I'll boot you from the raid, and then I'll bring somebody else. And then I'll hand that somebody else Shadow Protection Potions, because they didn't know that they were raiding and probably aren't prepared. So not only will you not get to kill Lotheb with us, you'll probably also not see the Further Wings, and I'll be giving somebody else the free Shadow Protection Potions that you didn't decide to bring. So, bring them. So he gets healed. This is probably 2 heals that came in. I didn't pay attention to his actual incoming heals, but...
I heard that as I should sign up benched.
What's the thing on bandages though?
Saved? They saved the tank? Wow.
Yeah. Nature's Swiftness, because you're not healing often, right? You're healing once a minute.
It's available.
You have Nature's Swiftness every other heal, right? So.
Yeah, it's just surprised. Seeing someone at 6% with the boss's hand in the air about to slap him. Yeah, I thought he was going to die.
Yeah. So they intentionally wipe this to give it another shot. I'm going to let that other shot play through while we talk about a couple other small things.
What's the deal with bandages? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm going to pull that up, actually. Let me find it before I move it to that screen.
Healers can bandage other people when they're not doing anything.
Yes, that is, that's very important to note, actually. Healers, I don't know if you guys normally bring bandages to raid. I do. Please bring them. If you plan on raiding Naxx with us until Burning Crusade, you should have at least 100 Greater Shadow Protection Potions. This is not the only place that you'll use them, so make sure you've got them.
Down to 1 proc, but that's probably gonna take a while.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. So... this is the consumable rotation. So we pre-pop a Greater Shadow Protection Potion. After the first Inevitable Doom pops, you hit another one. After the following Inevitable Doom, this is when your health is low, you bandage. You can also pop a Health Stone after the next one, and then you Greater Shadow Protection Potion again at 4 minutes and 10 seconds when it comes off of cooldown. You can also bandage again here. Basically, you're bandaging on cooldown, right? Like, if you have the ability to bandage somebody and their health isn't full, you do it. After 5 minutes, we very quickly die. So, if the fight ends up being 6 minutes long, I'm telling you right now, do not expect to keep world buffs past Lotheb. It is extremely likely that we see a 6-minute kill during progression, and if we see a 6-minute kill during progression, half the raid will be dead. People just don't have enough max health to live through that. So this will be the fight that if we kill it by mere percentages. Please come prepared for this. This will be the first major wall that we hit. Next week we will be talking about Construct Quarter, which will be the second major wall that we hit with Patchwork. However, it is very likely that during our first full day of raiding, we see Lotheb, but not Patchwork. It's possible that we end up getting to Lotheb, get a few attempts in, maybe kill him, and then end up with full buffs on Patchwork. That is ideal. If we end up seeing Patchwork without buffs, don't be prepared to kill him, because Patchwork is going to be probably the biggest wall that we run into, just because it's a gear check. There's not much we can do to outskill it. So Patchwork will be the most wipes that we see outside of Lotheb. Sapphiron will be the other wall that we'll have to talk about. That'll be in 2 weeks. Please, if you haven't been farming your Frosters this year, get it. So many people are arguing, oh, we're not going to need it. Shut up. I'm not bringing you to raid if you don't have it. It's that simple. We will talk about Sapphiron in a couple weeks when that was scheduled. But I'm mentioning this early because you will not be able to contribute to Sapphiron without Frosters to Scare. Putting that out there right now. Oh, but it got fixed. It's every 2 seconds now. Nope. Just stop. Bring your Frosters to Scare. Any questions about any of the things we talked about today?
Finner just has something in guild chat about you, like when having like ferals and enhanced shamans in the rotation for healing.
Yes, feral druids and enhanced shamans will be in the healing rotation. Abso-freaking-lutely. It is extremely likely that we use the feral druids to just get a hot up. Probably regrowth, because I'll likely ask Naka for rejuve, since it's a little bit better. And enhancement shamans we might end up using for chain heal.
Did you say the healing stream totem?
The healing stream is negligible, though. I mean, how much it gives.
I mean, I can
nothing is negligible on Lotheb. Nothing. Like when I say that people will literally end up living through this fight with sub 500 health, I'm not kidding.
I think it gives like 300 health to everybody.
It's just a question of whether it triggers the cooldown for the healing spell.
Yes, that is the big question. The answer is I'm not quite sure of the answer.
Wouldn't it be the case? Wouldn't it be the same case for all the totems then? When they lock you, if that was the case for the healing stream?
No, it's just healing spells. Poison cleansing totems should be fine.
What's it called? Yeah, so having the 15% stamina, whatever the fuck things for DMT, it's extremely important for that one. If we make it there, we're world boss, of course.
Yeah, Bangu asks, can we use heal set for Diamond Flask? The answer is kind of. The real damage in this fight doesn't actually start until 2 minutes in, at least the raid damage. So you can't pre-Diamond Flask it, but you can put Diamond Flask weapons on and Diamond Flask after 2 minutes. Is that worth it? Probably not. It's probably a better bet just to Diamond Flask the period that you have your Spore buff, because that overall is going to make the fight easier.
So
I like that idea from Wodas.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Do you know if the Spore buff? Do you know if the Spore buff is additive or multiplicative?
What do you mean?
Well, is it additive, meaning you have crit plus 60, or you have crit and then 0.60 of that crit added to your original?
No, it's
crit?
additive.
Yeah, it
adds
50%.
50.
Okay.
Spell 60.
So there's no diminishing return. on that
Correct.
crit. Okay.
So
Yeah, if-
regarding the diamond flask potentially not being worth it, you're like, let's say the tank has Jindo's Hexer and the offhand from ZG for 82 enchants for another 110. Like we're approaching 200. It's every 5 seconds for 60, so times 12, so 2400 health.
It's into the landing zone, isn't it?
That feels significant given the way this fight works.
Yeah. Every warrior that has that should probably do that at some point.
One further
Good point.
thing, for our singular Resto Druid, Poison Cleanse, the actual poison cleansing spell, does trigger the timer. So do not use that. Let the shamans drop their totems.
Same thing with Abolish.
Yes.
Yes. Spell that is consider your primaries will trigger your cooldown rotation.
Oh yeah, it says cure.
Where do you
Oh.
have the frost resist requirements linked in the Discord?
In raid info, the raid info channel, there is a requirement number. I should say a target number, because it's nearly impossible to hit the actual numbers that we need without some max gear. But you want to get as close as possible per roll. If you scroll up a little bit, and then there's some example sets that include some gear that you could be on the lookout for. Warlocks, one more important note for you. Bale did mention, you're going to be on Lothab. You can't life tap. So this is the fight that you bring mana potions and MP5 consumes and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But using MP mana potions don't trigger the cooldown for your greater shadow protection.
Warlocks are going to be pretty self-sufficient for that fight as far as the shadow damage.
Okay, so Healing Stream Totem is classified as a summon, which makes me think that it will be safe.
And how does Warlock drain life work?
Yeah, I thought we were just gonna have the poison cleansing totems down though.
Yeah, we will have the poison cleansing totems down, absolutely, but you should be able to twist them in theory.
A lot of mana.
Here's a quick question. Your frost resistance, does that... No, never mind. It says unbuffed. My bad.
Yes.
Yeah, mana will not be a problem because you're only casting
healer mana will be a
every
joke.
minute. You're casting one healing spell every minute, so you put on your max plus healing gear. You ignore MP5, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you want 129 FR without the totem buff still, so try to wiggle that in there with rings or whatever.
No, we're talking about Lothab still.
So I thought that healers, while they were not casting healing spells, were supposed to be DPSing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So mana is a concern because healers DPSing burns through mana fast.
Think about it this way. You only need to ever make sure that you have mana for your big heal. And priests, especially, every other heal is free. So...
Hey, jumping ahead on frost resist, off tanks on Sephiroth, they need to have frost resist too, correct?
Yes, every tank should have frost resist just in case you're not the one tanking. For me to say, oh, this person will be our main tank in Nex is going to be entirely impossible because you will all lose buffs at some point, and whoever doesn't have buffs obviously isn't tanking. So all of our tanks should have frost resist gear, just in case.
Perfect, thank you.
That being said, you will not be wearing frost resist while tanking.
I know it's a way off, but when we eventually get to Saffron, if that's the first thing we're doing for the day, we should only bring one tank in per attempt. Let the tank.
I tend to agree with that.
That'll give us 4 attempts with world buffed tanks. 5.
That's huge, actually. Yeah.
Since the pug is probably not going to be doing that at that point too.
6, 7.
Hey.
Yeah, actually, In the Way and I can also be on standby for that. Also important that as far as Nax Frost Resist loot distribution goes, the jewelry, the stuff that everybody wants because it's the most valuable piece, will likely go to priests first. We want to be able to enable the priests to wear 8-piece on Saffron because it will significantly increase their effectiveness on the fight. So do not count on those purples. Obviously, the other purples that drop, like the plate stuff, will have to go to the warriors, and the leather stuff will likely go to the rogues and druids, and yada yada yada. We don't know how many of those purples we're going to have by the time we see Saf, so try to get every piece that you can before then, so that you can replace whatever piece you want with a purple, right? If we say, oh, hey, look, we have these purple shoulders, here you go, and your reply is, oh, but the shoulders are the only piece that I have, you're not getting those purple shoulders because you're not coming to Saf. We're putting them on somebody else. You know, so.
So the runes are like 20 something per full run, so we're only going to probably get 10 to 20 starting in the, right?
The bosses also have a chance to drop Frost Resist gear. So
for crafting purposes, how many runes does it take to craft a typical Frost Resist piece?
I think it depends on the piece.
Cloak is what, 5 or 6?
It's around 4 or 5.
There's a
Yeah.
quest ring that
About
takes
like
1.
5.
Yeah.
But
it's important to note that technically, the most efficient use of the runes at the start is to get everybody rings, because the rings only cost 1 rune each.
You cut
However,
out.
You cut out.
Yeah, cut out.
I'm sorry. Where did I cut out?
The most efficient.
Most efficient use of the runes is...
Yeah. Technically, the most efficient use of the runes is to give everybody the rings, because they only cost 1 each. However, that is not what we will be doing. Everybody should have rings ahead of time, because those are easy to acquire. Are they expensive? Yes. Should you have bought them months ago? Yes. If you haven't bought them yet, I have plenty to sell. Come at me. So, get Frost Resist rings, because we're not going to be wasting Frost runes on rings. Everybody should have those ahead of time. We're going to be using the Frost runes on the actual pieces that people will be using long term.
What other mats are involved for most of that crafting?
Essence of water.
Yeah, Essence of Water is a big
Water.
one. If you look at,
But
let me check
nothing
Atlas real
that's
quick.
not unacquirable.
Also, quick tip: buying the mats to get the rings crafted, or buying the frozen rune, is probably going to be cheaper than actually buying a frozen resist ring currently or when Nax comes out. Just keep that in mind.
And
the guild bank actually has a pair of cloth Frost Resist shoulders to sell. I've been holding on to them for a while to figure out who's the best use of them.
Probably a clothy.
Not a priest. Maybe a mage or warlock. Probably mage instead of warlock, because tier 2.5 warlock shoulders are kind of nuts.
for those of us with alt rogues that we can go ahead and attune to Nax, the rune farm, it's how many? Like 8 per run or something?
Yeah, if you have the capacity to rune farm Nax, like, do that day one. Like, get as many runes as you possibly can. I will open up guild bank donations for runes. I will buy them from you. I will literally anything that we can do to make Saf easier.
The runes might lock you, but it's possible they respawn later.
Yeah, don't.
It's going to be
don't
an
rune
experiment
farm
on the first day.
Yeah, don't rune farm on your main character. Don't
Right.
do that.
That's why I said rogue alts specifically.
From testing
Don't you
on
have
people,
to
it
get-
does lock you.
Don't you have to get the trash drop items to get the runes?
The thawing, words of thawing or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
There are some that require them.
Oh, some don't?
I have a funny feeling those words of thawing are also BOE.
They are.
It might be an 8Q coffer key situation where we end up with excess.
Okay.
The mages farm words from trash, and the rogues stealth in, and druids stealth in to get runes.
Yeah.
You get like 5 runes per whatever it's called thing on the wall.
Per word.
So
I
if you're
just wanted
curious
to
about the
discussion for it.
yeah, if you're curious about the crafted frost resist stuff, it is in Atlas Loot under the crafting tab. You can look at each of the individual professions and see what is available. There's also, of course, in my raid info section, an example setup of what you might look like with fully kitted out epics that are crafted or dropped from Naxx for frost resist, so you can see which slots are available there and where they might come from.
Question related to the non-scrubs who can't drink a swap. Is the scarab gonna count as our nature resist, or I mean frost resist, or no?
The scarab. So the scarab is not, especially on hunters. The scarab is not to get you to your frost resist target. It's to push you above it, right? That's why we're not giving scarabs to melee, because the melee want like close to 255 to begin with. So giving them that scarab is just going to push them over cap, right? There's no reason for them to wear it. However, casters, ranged DPS, and healers can pop that and have an extra 100 frost resist during the first minute of the fight, which will significantly reduce the load. Any other
Hey,
questions?
side note, on Finra, I do have an 18 resist ring extra, if that would help anybody. Just send an email or DM.
Never realized 10 storms had 10 FR on it.
I have something on the order of a dozen extra rings to
I think
sell.
all tier 2 helms have 10 an hour, right? Or FR?
Yeah.
Yes, every tier 2 helm has frost resist on it.
Yeah, I'll all be wearing them.
All right, I'm out.
Wait, Darts.
Thank you for the info, Clark.
Yeah, I'm going to close this out, and I'll post this in raid discussion just like the other one. I failed to say at the end of the last video, I will be monitoring who has been here or who watched these and everything else like that. And obviously, if you choose not to come prepared to Naxx, you can expect to see a boss and then none of the others. So make sure you know what you're doing.
Eshman also asked about a devouring plague on Lotheb.
Yes, you can Devouring Plague Lotheb. No, we cannot all do it at the same time. Debuff slots will be an issue. I will probably end up calling individual Devouring Plagues when there's room for them. If there's room.
Thanks for your time, Glorik.